Good afternoon to the members of the press and to all tuning into this report. My name is Eugene Poitier, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Our ministry has remit of several divisions, namely Youth, Sports and Culture, that oversees national development programs and activities. Our ministry is also responsible for several national facilities within the parameters of youth, sports, and culture. COVID-19 has changed the narrative on the delivery of services globally and has shifted the paradigm towards virtual activity. The pandemic has redefined the general perspective of youth to be disengaged. The fact is, youth in the Bahamas are now utilizing knowledge to enhance their communication and engagement in community development. Cultural activities, facilities, and practitioners have been negatively impacted and have altered their trajectory, while the management of sporting facilities and events have been modified to adhere to the current health protocols. Consequently, the Honorable Lanisha T. Roll, the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, is pleased to relate to you the impact of COVID-19 on the events, programs, and facilities that are under the purview of our ministry. Joining us here today are our divisional leaders, Undersecretary Mr. Montez Williams, Director of Sports Mr. Tim Munnings, Executive Director of Culture Rowena Poitier, and Administrative Consultant of Youth Sandina Neely. I welcome the Honorable Minister Lanisha T. Roll to report on the impact of COVID-19 on the ministry's constituents, stakeholders, activities, events, and programs, and measures undertaken and planned for successful implementation, intervention, and sustainability within the COVID-19 environment. Following the Minister's report, we will entertain questions from members of the press. Minister.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary. Good afternoon, Bahamas. Good afternoon to the media. Michael Turnbull instructively reminds us, we learn from every natural disaster. Whether it is a fire or a flood, we learn something from it so we can respond to the next one better. The World Atlas records the following 10 pandemics throughout history: the Antonine Plague, the Black Death, smallpox, cholera, Russian flu, Spanish flu, H3N2 pandemic, HIV/AIDS in 1981, and SARS 2002 to 2004. The world now faces the challenges of overcoming yet another pandemic, the novel coronavirus, better known as COVID-19. From a global perspective, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted rules and policies, operations, and systems of almost every nation. At a local level, the impact has revolutionized industries, sectors, communities, and homes. This impact was reflected in the halting of vital youth organization programs, to the urgent cancellations of critical local athletic practices, and the postponement of regional and international sports meets. The impact further inflicted injury to the creative arts and larger cultural community, consequently stifling large-scale resources and, in particular, the orange economy. We all can agree the coronavirus outbreak has changed what we do and how we do it. Therefore, it is change none can ignore. Per the quote of Robert Scoble, change is inevitable, and the disruption it causes often brings both inconvenience and opportunity. As difficult as it is for all of us, as a nation, we have a duty to acknowledge the fact that the coronavirus pandemic has brought with it wide-scale sickness, substantial loss of life, loss of income, financial burdens, incredible stress, and significant inconveniences. Coincidentally and concomitantly, the experiences have caused or brought with it a series of opportunities, inclusive of global unity, advanced technology, online teaching and learning, virtual platforms, contactless and cashless services. Additionally, we experienced the introduction and expansion of multiple online businesses and joint business ventures. Things the world often spoke about, but somehow never got around to it. Moreover, the COVID-19 phenomenon, embraced as an opportunity, has brought families together, influenced nations to unite to fight, has brought families together and persuaded the global community to view the world as one place and one people, vulnerable to the pros and cons of change. Today, this national address serves to report the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture's response to the change resulting from the presence of COVID-19 in our local community. In response to the rapidly changing circumstances, governments world over were and are forced to transform the manner in which the public service delivers enduring public value for the good of the general public. Particularly, the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, being that arm of government in the Bahamas charged with delivering service to and on behalf of the youth, sports, and cultural communities and industries, is pleased to report that our COVID-19 management strategy has incorporated a 5-pronged approach of unity, re-ingenuity, strength, recommitment, and perseverance. To reduce the spread of COVID-19, in alignment with the guidance from the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture immediately established a COVID-19 response committee to lead the management of COVID-19 strategic response. Together with our functioning subsidiaries, the National Sports Authority and the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, and at best, or at the behest of the government, we temporarily closed or ceased physical operations at the various facilities. Staff assumed work-at-home arrangements for their safety and that of the general public. Further, the ministry's immediate reaction was to maintain a portal of electronic access for the benefit of the general public. In this regard, a virtual connection to the ministry was created through the establishment of a host of electronic services. An online platform was launched and a 24-hour emergency hotline was activated to ensure our partners and the general public maintained access to key personnel. Operating under a trifurcated portfolio, the ministry, in immediate response to the pandemic, transformed the mechanisms of our operations to an effective e-platform that allows for the continued functioning of the Division of Youth, the Department of Sports, and the Division of Cultural Affairs. The transformed operations have allowed departments to maximize the use of technology to stay connected to our over 1,000 partnering associations and organizations, provide ongoing services to the general public, and deliver quality programming and support systems effectively, efficiently, safely, and in the spirit of excellence. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture was among the first to respond to the onset of the coronavirus here in the Bahamas. On the 12th of March 2020, the ministry, in partnership with local schools from across the length and breadth of the Bahamas, of the Bahama Islands, were gathered here in New Providence with over 500 children at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium in the midst of the annual National High School Track and Field Championships. However, upon receiving the news that there was a strong likelihood that the deadly coronavirus had reached our shores, on the advice of the Cabinet of the Bahamas, to protect our little darlings, we acted decisively by immediately stopping the meet and ensuring the children were sheltered in place with the cooperation of their parents and guardians. To all of our misfortune, The following day, the presence of the coronavirus was no longer a rumor. It was a living, breathing, deadly weapon that had touched down in the islands of the Bahamas. Indeed, the ministry was relieved to have made the difficult decision on the guidance of the government to act urgently to avoid preventable harm. From that moment onward, the entire nation was subject to the immediate safety measures implemented by the established office of the competent authority, which office instituted emergency lockdowns, curfews, sanitation, and physical distancing protocols, in addition to other measures designed to protect the health of our people and keep communities safe. We are now in the throes of the second wave of the coronavirus. Thus, our nation remains in a state of emergency to this day. The proverbial mandate of public or government organizations is to account, to be responsible in our actions and objectively serve the public, albeit in good and challenging times. In addition to accounting for the ministry's response to the pandemic, this report also serves to indicate the ministry's plan to safely and successfully move forward in and beyond a COVID-19 environment. First and foremost, I wish to report thankfully that the ministry has not lost any member of staff to the deadly coronavirus. However, we experienced a total of 3 cases, all of whom have recovered. Special thanks to the intervention and services provided by the personnel and practitioners of the Ministry of Health. Some staff members, however, did experience associated deaths among their family members, and for this misfortune, we extend our deepest sympathies. I now turn to the Division of Youth. The Youth Division caters directly to the youth of our nation between the ages of 15 and 19. The division's mandate is to oversee national youth development on behalf of the government of the Bahamas. This mandate is fulfilled through the facilitation, creation, and production of youth programs designed to ensure the positive engagement and empowerment of youth. The mission is to secure substantial and strategic investment in youth and related initiatives, promote their skill and personal development, and strengthen the employability status of the Bahamian youth demographic. In direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Division of Youth published and circulated the Youth Reemerged, Re-Energized, and Re-Engaged COVID-19 Guidelines on the 18th of August 2020. The guidelines noted specific protocols to equip youth and community organizations and youth workers with options for the safe operation of programs and youth engagement under the current regime. Regarding the Youth Leaders Certification Program, or YLC, the Division of Youth facilitates the ongoing standardized training of youth leaders throughout the YLC program and certainly throughout the Bahamas. Whereas in times past, the division was limited in its program offerings to subscriptions, predominantly from New Providence and Grand Bahama, the introduction and focus of an online platform now permits participant intake from all major family islands. This means that more youth leaders can be trained and certified to deliver standardized youth programming and best practices. This enhanced platform is projected to increase participation for the years 2020 and 2021 and beyond from 180 to 320, representing a 44% increase over 2020 and 2021 period. Significantly, the ministry continues to negotiate with the University of the Bahamas to commence a professional youth practitioner certification program to qualify youth officers in accordance with international accreditation and best practices. partnering with the Commonwealth Secretariat and the National Youth Agency based in the United Kingdom from September 7th to October 1, 2020, youth workers participated in an online training session which equipped them with the tools needed to assist our young people and youth organizations in regards to best practices and methods and approaches to address issues that arise as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Training modules included youth, management, leadership, grief, trauma, loss, and conflict resolution. The Fresh Start program, purposely designed to accommodate at-risk youth, was enhanced to include a virtual platform. The new virtual Fresh Start program is scheduled for January 2021 and is scheduled to now include family islands such as Abaco, Andros, Bimini, Eleuthera, and Long Island. The Be Inspired Entrepreneurship Program will likewise be re-engineered and redesigned for delivery via an online platform. In doing so, I'm happy to report that our Family Island young people will be permitted access to the same level of training, resources, and mentorship as their counterparts in New Providence and Grand Bahama. Program graduates are equipped to develop formal business plans and are exposed to the principles of budgeting, marketing, strategic networking, and given opportunities to interface with potential customers and stakeholders. The Job Ready program theory component has also been re-engineered for online delivery. Options for the substitution of the internship component or part 2 of the program are under review. The division is making substantial efforts to preserve the integrity of its programs by maintaining exit competencies that secure the credibility and reliability of the program initiative. In the interim, for January 2021, the Job Ready program in its usual format has been temporarily replaced with the High School Leavers Job Ready Workshop Series. The Masterminds program for high school leaders is being retooled. The program pilot is scheduled to be launched and is due to be launched in January 2021 in some or selective high schools throughout the country. Bahamians. National Youth Month 2020 has been described as an e-blast. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Division of Youth led celebrations under a full virtual platform, guided by the theme, Youth Resilient, Re-engineered, and Re-emerged for Social Change. The division, in conjunction with the National Youth Advisory Council and partnering with youth organizations and youth leaders, commenced with the Crazy Praise Party with DJ Godson, with 6,100 views on Facebook. A youth masterclass conference was held online, leading the dialogue of current youth issues. The event boasts of 300 participants, 10,000 plus viewers over 14 days, and thousands of shares via Facebook. The first ever virtual youth march was launched on Sunday, the 25th of October 2020, with a viewership of just over 3,800 persons via Facebook. The annual Youth Parliament debate showcased in its inaugural virtual session on Friday, October 30th, with 39 youth parliamentarians who participated and debated on the topic, Youth Perspective of the New Normal in the COVID-19 Era. Over 16,000 persons joined in viewing this outstanding debate. The National Youth Awards was also held virtually on the evening of Friday, October 30th. This virtual event boasts over 11,000 online viewers. I wish to congratulate the 165 nominees, of which there were 20 award winners. High commendations are extended to the winners of the coveted Directors and Ministers' Cups and Prime Minister's Award. I wish to thank the Division of Youth and the more than 11,000 viewers that joined us in the virtual viewing of the event. Noteworthy was the opportunity for youth from all of the islands of the Bahamas to be included in this year's celebrations, especially in the Youth Parliament debate and Youth Award celebrations. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the general public and the entire body of 2020 National Youth Month participants for their support and ultimate success of the virtual initiatives. I now turn my attention to sports. Vince Lombardi, a renowned football coach and Hall of Famer, said, "The measure of who we are is what we do with what we have." These words are applicable to the current health and safety challenges we face, which impact the predominantly sociable lifestyles to which people are accustomed. I would have earlier indicated that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture were among the first to apply the COVID-19 measures. The measures would be later formalized into what is now known as the COVID-19 Emergency Powers Orders, reflective of health and safety protocols designed to ensure the safety and protection of all persons in the Bahamas. Out of an abundance of caution on the 12th of March 2020, when it was understood that one coronavirus case was somewhere lurking in country, the decision was made to stop the meet and to alert all present at the National High School Track and Field Championship, which was already in progress. Persons were immediately advised to shelter in place. Stemming from this experience, the story of the coronavirus presence and impact on the Bahamian people and the world at large is still being written. In immediate response to the COVID-19 state of affairs, the Department of Sports in particular joined the global sporting community in creating Stay Active, Stay Safe, Stay Healthy movement. Leading the way here in the Bahamas, the Department of Sports launched local sports challenges on Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp for the strategic purpose of keeping the Bahamian people actively engaged during the curfews and lockdowns. Moreover, the department created Stay Home, Stay Fit exercise videos to support the necessary emergency powers orders and to underscore the importance of the need to stay home to stay safe. In collaboration with the Department of Sports, many of our elite athletes partnered with the ministry to provide messages of encouragement to all of our frontline and healthcare workers who courageously worked from the onset of the COVID-19 challenges to protect our communities and keep Bahamians safe. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Bahamas Olympic Committee and other sporting organizations for their kind and thoughtful gestures, having joined the online video initiatives. Complementing the online platform, the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, under the guidance of the Ministry of Health and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, also created and published the COVID-19 Sports Strong Guidelines document for the benefit of the sporting community. This document can be viewed on the ministry's Facebook page and government website portal. The government cannot overemphasize and will not underestimate or understate the harsh reality that the sports industry was among those hardest hit as a result of this pandemic, which contagious fines required people to be physically distant. To the disappointment of many, quite a number of sporting events were forcibly postponed or canceled, including the 2020 Carifta Games and the highly anticipated 2020 Olympic Games. Anticipating that all will be well, Carifta Swimming has been rescheduled to April 3rd in Barbados, while Carifta Track and Field remains tentatively scheduled to begin in Bermuda on April 2nd, 2021. The Simply Tokyo Olympic Games are rescheduled for hosting in Japan from July 23rd to August 8th, 2021. The National Sports Authority is a statutory agency under the portfolio of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. I am pleased to report that the agency has embarked upon a strategic renovation plan to restore, in particular, the National Boxing Center and the Kendall G. L. Isaacs Gymnasium facilities, the latter having suffered substantial damage due to its long-term use as a shelter in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Upgrades to the soccer pitch and softball fields are also anticipated. And significantly, the Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium continues its progress, and the repairs to the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium is scheduled to commence soon. We expect that substantial restorative works will be completed by February 2021. Of note, the old track and field stadium and the Betty Kelly Kenning Swimming Complex have been provisionally reopened with the implementation of strict COVID-19 protocols for the benefit of athletes to practice. As the prohibition on group gatherings have not been lifted, the Blue Hill Fields have not yet been reopened for team sports. Restoration works, and I am happy to report, at the South Beach pools are 90% complete. The ministry is in the process of building the general and technical staff capacity to accommodate safe use by members of the general public. We anticipate that the facility will be ready with certified lifeguards by March 2021, with the availability of the kids' pool or kiddies' pool, competition pool, and large recreation pool. Grand Bahama Sports Complex. Post-Hurricane Dorian, the ministry embarked upon the restoration of severe water-damaged facilities at the Grand Bahama Sports Complex. To date, those restoration efforts are 90% completed. The repairs have been completed at the multi-purpose track and field, softball field, and practice field. The restrooms have been restored and the softball complex repaired. Additionally, works to alleviate all electrical issues at the complex are in process and soon to be completed. Athlete subventions. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture is pleased to report that all athletes approved for subvention under the 2020-2021 budget are continuing to receive financial assistance in accordance with approved procedures. We encourage our athletes to continue to use this assistance wisely as they prepare for upcoming competitions. Sports organization grants. The ministry continues to process grants to approved sporting organizations which meet compliance requirements and in accordance with the 2020-2021 budget. I now turn to the Bahamas Anti-Doping Commission. The Bahamas Anti-Doping Commission remains committed to protecting the integrity of Bahamian athletes and our country. Notably, the ministry on behalf of the government of the Bahamas recently agreed to the latest amendments to the 2015 Anti-Doping Code, which document was replaced by the new 2020 Code. The agreement of the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, is designed to ensure athletes adhere to the international standards, best practices, and agreed protocols to uphold the integrity of sports and sporting competitions. I would implore federations to familiarize themselves with all provisions and criteria of the updated Anti-Doping Code. National Sports Heritage Month 2020. It is said that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. According to Howie Long, sports ideally teach discipline and commitment. They challenge you to build character for everything you do in life. From time immemorial, sports has been known as that source of discipline, unity, strength, and motivation to people during national and global crisis. The sports community in the Bahamas continues to uphold this legacy. Amazingly, during the pandemic, our athletes courageously competed where and when possible, in spite of the coronavirus. Notwithstanding, they themselves and their families were, like all of us, vulnerable and in some instances directly impacted. November 2020 marks the celebration of National Sports Heritage Month. Every year, the ministry preserves this period to highlight the remarkable performances of our athletes. This year, we are pleased to host the top 20 sports champions countdown, so as not to prejudice any of the nominees. I will say no more than to invite the general public to vote via the ministry's Facebook page, and be sure to tune in to the countdown, which will be aired live on ZNS Monday coming, channel 211 at 8:30 p.m. on the 30th of November. This year's Sports Month celebrations are being held under the theme, In Spite Of, We Rise, Sports Strong throughout the islands of the Bahamas. Celebrations commence with daily rise and shine sports routines at 8:30 a.m. with notable fitness gurus. We remembered hallmark performances during weekly Moments in Time documentaries aired at 7:30 p.m. each Sunday on ZNS Network and via Facebook, featuring sports giants and trailblazers such as the late Sir Derwent Knowles, sailing Olympian, the late Thomas Robinson, sprint sensation, and the late Andre Rogers, baseball superstar, among others. The Vitamin C Challenges promoted proactive measures to encourage persons to boost their immune system as a strategic defense to the coronavirus. The Sports Conversation platform, entitled Sports View, explored how the new normal has impacted stakeholders of the sports community and how the people of these Bahama Islands have responded with unity, tenacity, and resilience. The month of activities also recognized the sports class of heroes, reflecting on the outstanding performances of athletes over the years, such as the Golden Girls with the 2000 Sydney Olympics, the Golden Knights, and the smashing repeat performances by track and field champion Tonique Williams-Darling. The celebrations culminate with the 2020 Sports Champions Countdown, which I indicated will be aired on Monday. As this is a People's Choice selection based on votes casted, I encourage the general public to participate via the dual online voting platforms. I now turn to culture. Similar to sports events, the Division of Cultural Affairs were winding down their exciting Junior Junkanoo parades throughout Family Islands and nearing the conclusion of the highly anticipated E. Clement Bethel Festival, when they were required to immediately halt those events as a safety precaution due to the presence of the COVID-19 virus in the Bahamas. Significantly, the creative and cultural communities, and by extension the orange economy, are among the industries hardest hit by the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. Performances by artists and bands were forced canceled. Artisans were unable to come together. Substantial revenue has been lost, and opportunities were shattered. Most significantly, our beloved National Junkanoo parades were consequently postponed to a date and time when it is safe. To date, the Bahamas has lost 163 persons due to COVID-19. The Ministry of Health is monitoring 7,469 reported cases to date. It is clear that the pandemic is not over, or perhaps not near the end, though, as all former pandemics, that end will and must come. In the interim, however, it is essential that we as a people remain united, resilient, and cooperative with the Ministry of Health, whose responsibility it is to ensure the health and safety of the people who reside in the jurisdiction of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I now turn to the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, or NAGB as it is affectionately called. It is a subsidiary of the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture. The statutory body focuses on the fine arts. I'm happy to report that a return to work plan was formulated and submitted to the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture on June 4, 2020, and the facilities were outfitted with approved safety measures such as the plexiglass safety partitions, touchless thermometers, hand sanitizing stations, and new signage indicating safe distances. These were designed, produced, and installed by mid-June. The NAGB reopened to the public on July 6, 2020. A virtual mixed media art summer camp was held, and in partnership with the Central Bank of the Bahamas, students were equipped with art supplies. 140 students registered and participated in that program. Artist professional development training continues under the ACE series. Additionally, NAGB consistently hosts art webinars. The National Dance School was established in 1976, and the Bahamas has excelled in all styles of dance and drumming. The school's mission is to train and develop professional dancers and drummers. The school has outgrown its space and is currently closed. However, efforts are being made to secure new accommodations for faculty and students who, prior to the lockdown, temporarily utilized multiple school facilities for their practices and rehearsals. The ministry realizes that this state of affairs is untenable and unconducive for the long-term development of professional dancers and the dance industry. The Performing Arts Center, located on Shirley Street, is currently closed and undergoing structural assessments. Based on the outcome of the assessment, it is proposed that the dance school will either be repaired or replaced in its facilities. It is resolved, however, that a working and functional performing arts facility is critical to the development of the creative arts industry. Though budgeted, the ministry's youth summer employment and summer camp programs were canceled for the period 2020 due to the continued presence of COVID-19 cases and the requirements under the emergency powers orders maintaining a prohibition on gatherings. Collectively, the programs normally engage approximately 3,000 students annually, providing a safe space for children to learn, to interact and engage in extracurricular activities, which allows them to explore their talents and improve their practical skills. The government-sponsored programs are the largest to be hosted during the summer months and also designed to assist students and parents financially with back-to-school preparations. National Junkanoo Parades. The National Junkanoo Parades for Boxing Day 2020 and New Year's 2021 have both been postponed by the government of the Bahamas until the Ministry of Health advises it is safe for the participants and spectators alike. The ministry realizes that this decision is not popular. However, we assure the Junkanoo community and Bahamians at large that the actions taken by the government in this regard are made in the best interests of the Bahamian people, the cultural community, and to responsibly ensure the health and safety of the general public. The ministry recommends the parade's resumption as soon as the environment is safe for group and mass gatherings. In the interim, the ministry will continue to create mechanisms for the ongoing collaboration and motivation of Junkanoo stakeholders. It is my fervent prayer that Junkanooers stay safe and the spirit of Junkanoo stands strong throughout the islands of the Bahamas. Sincere condolences are offered to the Junkanoo groups which lost members due to COVID-19 in particular. May their souls rest in peace. National Cultural Heritage Month 2020. Notwithstanding the challenges of COVID-19, the ministry has not ceased to celebrate the wonderful work and achievements of the departments and affiliates it represents. Hence, like National Youth Month in October and National Sports Heritage Month in November, or celebrated during November, during the month of December, we will celebrate our culture. National Cultural Heritage Month 2020. We will celebrate under the theme Re-Enhanced, Rejuvenated, and Recommitted to the Culture. The Division of Cultural Affairs has a month of activities planned to inspire the Bahamian populace. The activities consist of exciting events designed to celebrate who we are, where we came from, and where we are headed as a people. This year's first ever virtual platform will include the Season of Hope Christmas series, the NAGB virtual tours, the One Pulse Scavenger Hunt, and the Who Got Robbed Junkanoo series, which will be aired on Boxing Day and New Year's Day beginning 8:30 p.m. ZNS ILTV, Cable Bahamas, and multiple social media platforms. So we will still determine who got robbed on Junkanoo nights. Fellow Bahamians, the ministry's overarching strategy is to respond to and ensure that we live safely in and overcome the COVID-19 pandemic here in the Bahamas. We expect to continue our operations as safely as possible under the guidance of the Ministry of Health. The ministry will continue to upgrade our capacity to effectively engage the online and electronic service platforms to deliver services and programs through the trifurcated departments and subsidiaries. We will also pursue the completion of repairs and renovations as needed to damaged facilities and work to keep our youth positively engaged, our sporting community motivated, and the cultural community energized and united to offer themselves and their talents for the enjoyment, recreation, and benefit of the Bahamian people. That being said, I wish to extend my heartfelt condolences to the many families who have suffered loss of life due to the dreadful coronavirus disease and consequential tragedies. During times of bereavement, two events are known in Bahamian tradition, customarily the wake and the setup. These occasions are known to help people cope with their loss or their grief. Unfortunately, for the most part, COVID-19 has also taken that away from us. However, this too shall pass. One thing this pandemic cannot take away is the Bahamian spirit of resilience, our legacy of success, and our culture of endurance and perseverance. Until the day we resume the normalcy that we all miss and demand, and until the time our lives return to the level of physical interaction we all know, love, and long for, permit me to comfort you as I close with the lyrics sang best by the New Jersey Mass Choir. Though the storm keep on raging in my life, and though it's hard to tell the night from day, still that hope that lies within it reassures. As I put my eyes upon the distant shores, I know He'll take us to that perfect place. But if the storms don't cease, and if the winds keep growing in my life, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. May the good Lord forever keep anchored the islands and people of the Bahamas. Together, we will ride out the COVID-19 storm. God bless the communities of youth, sports, and culture, and may the good Lord continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
We will now move into the Q&A segment of our presentation. And we'll begin with Christina Dragovich of RTV.
Good afternoon. My question is for the minister. Are there any plans to see a return of high school sports in the short to medium term?
Good afternoon again, and thank you for your question. Any sports meet, any level of gathering or mass gatherings or coming together will be contingent upon the emergency powers orders and certainly whether or not our environment is safe for the children. So while we want to ensure that they are able to be engaged, we want to ensure primarily that they are safe. And so as soon as it is safe, as soon as we have some level of normalcy, we will be able to return to those various meets.
Our news. Next question, please.
That's it for me. Thank you.
That's it, okay. Okay. Karen Bain, Global Radio.
Good afternoon. My question is for the minister. Minister Roll, Junkanoo groups throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas have long went into their pockets to fund their journey to the various parade routes. In an effort to keep the Junkanoo culture alive, is there any consideration from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture to give some type of stimulus package to our Junkanoo groups? Because several persons work tirelessly in the Junkanoo shacks. That's their only means of income.
Thank you for your question. Well, firstly, we are aware that for various organizations, the government has provided general stimulus packages for various persons that they should be able to take advantage of. However, we realize that the Junkanoo community is a particular creature, and so therefore there may be requirements or there may be need for further assistance. To date, I am not aware that we receive any particular requests for any strategic or particular assistance to that community. Certainly, if we have that request, that matter will be brought to the attention of the government, and certainly any additional assistance we can provide will be contingent upon the government's already strained budget. But where we can, we will assist. We do appreciate that this time is most difficult for all of us.
Ms. Global Radio, your next question, please.
Yes, my second question is for the Olympic Committee or anyone from Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Recently, a Bahamian superstar track athlete, Shawnee Revo, spoke out against the World Athletics as well as the Athletics Integrity Unit with respect to a fellow competitor missing for testing and then having the charges dismissed. Shawnee's question was, and I quote, "Why no action was taken?" End of quote. Grateful if we can hear the ministry's response, especially where they stand in concerns with the concerns raised by Shawnee regarding the World Athletics as well as the Athletics Integrity Unit to be more transparent with the protection of the sport.
Okay, I'll let our Director of Sports, Tim Munnings, address that question.
Good afternoon, and thank you. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, by all means, agrees and supports the position which Shawnee has taken. We are concerned, and we have watched the developments. We believe that a closer look, an appeal has been made through the Bahamas Anti-Doping Commission to extend our concerns in this matter. We know that there are cases which precede this, where these matters have to be addressed. And so we are watching this carefully. The IAAF, the World Athletics Association, is also looking into this as well. But yes, it is concerning, and we believe that Shawnee deserves that consideration. Thank you.
Next question, please, Ms. Bain. That's it. Wow. Okay. Tyler Simonet, JCN.
Yes, good afternoon to the ministry officials and to all who are listening. My first question is, the ministry's budget has been cut for the 2020-2021 fiscal year by almost $5 million. How has this budget cut affected your plans moving forward? And do you feel like this current budget is enough for what the ministry plans to do in the upcoming year?
Okay. I'll let Minister address that question.
Thank you, Tyler, for your question. Good afternoon. I would say at the beginning, Tyler, it's never enough. It's never enough. However, fortunately and unfortunately, we don't have the demands that we had in terms of all of our programming. And so thankfully there, the government should have been able to reallocate funds to be able to assist in other areas to be prioritized during this very, very serious time that we have before us. But we do have things that need to be addressed in terms of a lot of the capital works, the performing arts centers we've indicated, the dance school, and we are certainly engaged in the various repair repairs to facilities to ensure that we can provide effective programming at a level of excellence. And so we would need additional funds in that regard. But again, in the environment where we're not able to gather as we need to, the normal things that we would like to do, even in terms of repairs, cannot happen. Those things actually are all halted at this time. And so because of that, I can say that the budget that we have, it is sufficient to do the essential things that we need to do, and those things are being done. Chief among them, providing assistance to our athletes to support them, providing assistance to sporting organizations, and doing those things that are necessary under the various portions of the portfolio.
JCN, your next question, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for that response, Minister. My second question is a short one. I just want to know, were officials from this ministry consulted when the decision was made to cancel the Junkanoo parades this year? And basically, how does the ministry feel about that decision?
Thank you again for your question. Certainly, the government of the Bahamas consulted the ministry with regards to its decision. Primarily, the ministry was guided, as you may or may not be aware, but it was in the press release, guided by the Ministry of Health, which determined, due primarily to the presence of the coronavirus being continually in our midst, it was not safe for us to have the event. And so we were consulted. Certainly the ministry has to, in a responsible manner, agree with the position of the government. Certainly we are the government, but we agree with the decision of the government of the Bahamas, and we certainly support it. And I believe that the Junkanoo community supports it and understands the difficult place and space that we find ourselves. I believe as soon as it is safe, I am sure we will be rushing wherever we need to rush, in our homes, in our backyards, and certainly on Bay Street. And so we were certainly consulted, and so we are in full agreement with that decision, with safety being the priority.
Royston Jones, Eyewitness Digital.
Good afternoon, and thank you all. My first question concerns whether or not, notwithstanding the budget of the ministry and the sporting world being stopped, is whether athletes will still receive subvention in the same amount to continue training and other things they need to do at this time.
Athletes, we have a subvention list, and every year that subvention list is recommendations come in from the various federations, and we proceed accordingly. And once an athlete qualifies in accordance with the stipulations, then they are awarded. Next question, please.
And my second question is, what provisions are in place at this time for teams that travel to ensure their safety competing in countries where restrictions may not be, I guess, as restrictive or intense?
Okay, I'll let the Director of Sports address that question.
Good day. Countries where teams are traveling, and teams really aren't traveling, but we do have a team which just recently traveled to Indianapolis, the Bahamas Basketball Federation, who are on their second leg of qualifying for the 2024 Olympics. To leave New Providence, to leave the Bahamas, they are required to undergo their PCR COVID test. Upon arrival, they have to do their PCR COVID test as well as quarantine. So there are strict requirements, and particularly if traveling to the United States at this time, there's a particular travel visa that has to be completed. And so in this competition, there are no spectators, and they are also following strict safety protocols, so everything is being taken care of. Of course, when they return, the same type of safety measures will also be incorporated. Quarantine, PCR testing, as best we can to keep everybody safe. As Minister said earlier, our priority is the safety and health of all of our athletes. Thank you.
Berthany McDermott, Our News.
Good afternoon. My question is also for the minister. She spoke to junk canoe parades and them being postponed for this year. So my question then is, what is the likelihood that there will be Boxing Day junk canoe parade 2021 and New Year's Day 2022, considering the amount of time it takes for groups to prepare for these parades? Or how soon will she be able to say if it is a go or if that too will be postponed?
Thank you for your question, Berthany, and certainly we want some certainty as it relates to the situation all around. But the fact is that the situation is fluid. We are dealing with a novel coronavirus, and so we're still learning a lot of things. We're still watching things, and we're in the monitoring stage, and so the world at large has no plan sort of to determine exactly what is going to happen day after tomorrow, next week, or even next year. We are certainly taking it one day at a time. I note on the global front that they are looking into safe vaccines for persons. They are looking into treatments, but we have to wait until there is a comfortable level of safety where, and at that point, I believe it would be responsible for us to indicate any particular date. At this time, all we can do is be guided by the Ministry of Health, and we can watch and we can pray and we can follow the safety protocols to ensure that we stay safe and healthy until this passes. Right now, it's simply too early to tell. I'm sorry.
Mr. McDermott, your next question, please.
Okay, piggybacking off of Christina's question, I know that some athletes are in high school that sometimes participate in the Cariftic Games. So my question then, how is training going for those athletes as well as athletes who will participate in the Olympics next year, considering COVID-19 protocols?
Yeah. Director Munnings.
One thing we know about our athletes, they're very resilient, they're very determined and committed to their sport, and courageous, put it at that. Indeed, athletes around the world are all being impacted by the closure of facilities, lockdowns, etc. Our athletes, however, are continuing to be creative, innovative in their training mechanisms and methods. We are starting to gradually open facilities and create opportunities for them to access some of the facilities. So we know that they're training. Some of them train in private facilities, private pools. You can train on open fields. And we think that the competition will be a level playing field because we are not the only jurisdiction that's being impacted by this. We know they won't be at their perhaps optimum if they were uninterrupted, but we're just hoping that they are doing the best they can. Thank you.
Mr. Knowles, ZNS News. Mr. Knowles.
My first good day. My first question will be to the director of sports, or the minister can answer as well. It's kind of piggybacking off Christina's question. I know she asked the question about high school sports. I spoke with a lot of local league heads here, as far as some of the local associations, and they feel with the right protocols they could possibly resume. But again, they're waiting on clearance from the government. Could you just give me an update on the status of the local league sports?
Director Munnings.
Thank you again. We mentioned earlier that we are being guided by the advice of the Ministry of Health. And so again, our concern is to ensure the health and safety of the participants. We know that some of the leagues can put in protocols, but we have to be very conscious of when the athletes leave the confines of the team sports, I guess, the field, they may go into unsecure environments. So I'm sure that the Ministry of Health is looking at all these scenarios to ensure that everyone is safe. Right now, these matters are being reviewed on a case-by-case basis, so you don't hear that all the sports are open because each team, each sport does not or has not produced what their protocols will be, and so that's important. It's not just saying go ahead and have team sport. These organizations should produce some type of document which outlines this is how we propose to manage the health and safety of the athletes. So we're looking at it case by case, and as it comes, if when they present something it's not thorough enough, then it takes a little longer for them to get that clearance. Thank you.
Mr. Knowles, your next question, please.
My second question will kind of be the piggyback of Brittany's question. I think the Director of Sports kind of answered it in terms of facilities. I know that's something athletes had issues with during this period. I know the men's basketball team, they weren't able to practice in Kendall right before they went off to Indianapolis for the America qualifiers. Is there a realistic timeline for the opening of the other general fitness facilities or exercise facilities or gyms?
Yeah. The ministry, as the minister indicated earlier, the ministry, we're guided by the directives of the competent authority. And so when a request is made to the ministry by a federation or athletes to use facilities, we have to consult with the competent authority in the Ministry of Health. And that's the directive that we go by. So we can't give you an exact time. That will depend on how the COVID situation unfolds and the directives coming from the competent authority. That is not a Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture decision. Okay, so we'd like to thank the reporters for their questions, and we hope that our presentation was nationally informative, and have a good day.